One of the biggest facets of the Russia hoax is the DNC server. They say it was hacked. They hired a firm called Crowdstrike to investigate. Crowdstrike said the Russians hacked it, and Trump was blamed. You know the rest. But the FBI never looked at the server. The DNC wouldn't let them. The FBI just took Crowdstrike's word for it. But declassified documents show the president of Crowdstrike, Sean Henry, testified under oath that he had no evidence that Russia hacked the DNC server, or evidence that anybody hacked it. Look what he says here. There's circumstantial evidence, but no evidence that they were actually exfiltrated. We just don't have the evidence that says the data actually left. We didn't have a sensor in place that saw data leave. Joining me now, the reporter behind the story, which first appeared in Real Clear Investigations, Aaron Matei, a journalist with the Gray Zone and host of Pushback. So, Aaron, I just want to let everybody know we don't know who did it. Maybe it was the Russians. But we're just saying that the guy who was in charge of investigating it, he doesn't have any evidence that it was the Russians. So how did the story get out there that the Russians did it?
Well, Crowdstrike was the DNC contractor that generated this allegation and first made it public. And when they said it in June of 2016, that's when this whole Russiagate madness began. And what's crazy is that Sean Henry made this admission behind closed doors in December of 2017, but we're only finding this out now, 3 years later. And what he's saying, it's pretty significant. He's saying that they've identified some alleged Russian hackers inside the DNC server, although I think there's reasons to question even that assertion based on CrowdStrike's track record when it comes to making these attributions. But even putting that aside, he's acknowledging that they have no evidence of these hackers exfiltrating data from the server. So if you can't pinpoint where or even whether these alleged Russian hackers took anything from the server, how can you be so confident in accusing them of stealing these emails from that server?
And you can tell it was fishy from the jump because Mueller, in his report, he didn't even say with specificity that the Russians did the hacking. He said it appears, right? It appears, but he didn't have any evidence. No one had any evidence that it was the Russians, but everyone pointed their finger at the Russians. Maybe they did. But it goes to show you how even like the most certain assumption of this Russia-Trump collusion thing is evidence-free.
This entire thing has been propelled by disingenuous language and leaks from the intelligence officials behind Russiagate. And we saw that with collusion. We got all these leaks painting a picture of illicit Trump-Russia contacts. When Mueller had to write his report, he could barely find any actual instances of somebody actually acting on behalf of the Russian government, even interacting with somebody actually acting on behalf of the Trump campaign, or people who might have had Russian passports or known people with Russian passports, but that doesn't make for a conspiracy between Trump and Russia. We saw how baseless that was. We also saw Mueller suggest that this Russian troll farm was a part of some sweeping Russian government operation. Mueller then had to admit that actually he has no evidence tying this troll farm to the Russian government. And then when the troll farm fought back, Mueller recently dropped the case.
Right. I mean, maybe they were involved, maybe they weren't, but it's all hearsay and innuendo. And the fact that a guy like Mueller, who, like, you know, this is a big deal in the United States. We're talking about taking down a president. He's taking the word of some random firm that the Russians did it, and he's the chief law enforcement guy. I mean, who just takes someone's word that the Russians did it without any evidence, and they didn't even have the server in their own hands? It's stupid. And we're getting done with it. So, Aaron, thanks very much. Up next, last call.